Tonight, a multiple car crash in Broken Hill leaves a vehicle on its roof, and a meeting held with a liquidated subcontractor in charge of major local projects.
From our 7 Spencer Golf Studios, your nightly news with Rudy Kamain begins now.
Good evening. A young child was among those caught up in a frightening crash in Broken Hill last night. While nobody was seriously injured, emergency services are pleading with locals to take care, with more cars on the road now that lockdown has lifted.
A ute on its roof, the front of this hatchback unrecognisable. A lucky escape for 4 people walking away from this smash in the city's north.
It was quite surprising that no one was actually seriously injured in this accident.
Crews called to the corner of Wyman and Oxide Streets shortly before 6 o'clock last night.
When fire rescue arrived today, there was no persons in the vehicles or persons had exited the vehicles.
Police believe the collision occurred at a speed of less than 30 kilometres an hour.
It just appears that the driver of the utility has failed to give way at a give-way sign and proceeding the intersection, causing the crash.
Police say the 17-year-old driver of the ute will be issued an infringement notice. A woman in her 30s and a 9-year-old child in the hatchback were taken to Broken Hill Hospital.
Anything that has had some sort of impact, or including a rollover, there's some fair amount of damage there, so they obviously had some minor injuries that would be needed to be assessed further at the hospital.
Both drivers tested negative for drugs and alcohol. Police believe the collision was simply an accident. With more cars on the road and regional travel permitted for the fully vaccinated, comes a plea to drive safely.
Just as we come out of lockdown, it's very important to take care on the roads. There'll be a lot more traffic out and about, so and it only takes a split second for the condition to change dramatically.
Lachlan Itter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
A woman has lost her licence after she was caught allegedly drink driving in Solomon Town. Just before 9:30 on Sunday night, police set up a driver testing station on 3 Chain Road where a Honda sedan entered the site. The 62-year-old Port Pirie South driver underwent a breath test and allegedly returned a positive reading of 0.132. She was reported, issued a 6-month immediate loss of licence, and her car was impounded. She'll be summoned to appear in court at a later date. An 83-year-old man who was found after being missing for 8 days near Cleve has died. He was taken to Cleve Hospital following his rescue on Sunday with severe dehydration and sunburn. In a statement, police say he passed away late yesterday morning after his condition deteriorated in hospital overnight, also saying there are no suspicious circumstances. Police will now prepare a report for the coroner. It's now been 5 days since COVID was last detected in Broken Hill. And in even better news, Wilcannia is now officially COVID-free. Locals also given their strongest indication yet they will be able to visit family in South Australia for Christmas.
A close-knit town where 1 in 5 locals caught COVID. It hasn't been an easy few months for Wilcannia, but for now at least, its COVID outbreak is over.
I mean, that really was a team effort between the community, partner organisations and, of course, the health.
Just a single case recorded in the Far West LHD today, a household contact in Dareton. Broken Hill looking promising with no cases since last Wednesday, but testing rates remain a concern.
Given that we still have active cases, potentially in the community, and we're still getting positive sewage results, I think it's really important that we maintain the numbers as much as we can.
The last few days feeling like a victory march, but we're still to cross the finish line. A surge in cases and hospitalisations expected.
At this stage, we think we can manage, but, things can change. That's why it is really important that we get that second dose up.
Over-the-border vaccination hubs will be set up at 20 schools, including in Port Lincoln and Port Augusta. The Premier also giving the strongest indication yet SA will reopen its borders by Christmas.
I think that they should have great confidence to book flights back to South Australia as long as they're double vaccinated.
Lachlan Itter, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Works on 2 overtaking lanes on the Lower Eyre Peninsula are expected to be completed by the end of the year. It comes as support is pledged for local businesses impacted by the collapse of subcontractor OTM.
Local businesses affected by the liquidation of Clare-based construction company OTM meeting with officials last Thursday in Tumby Bay.
Important for them to get in front of the people that are responsible for the contract, and for those people to understand the position of small business.
Minister for Infrastructure and Transport, Corey Wingard, among those in attendance. Tumby Bay Mayor Sam Telfer wanting to ensure Lower Eyre Peninsula businesses were compensated.
We want to make sure that we're looking after those small businesses and they're able to operate, to function, and most importantly, to make sure that they're in a position to be able to deliver this project.
Works have recommenced on the Overtaking Lanes, but won't be finished before the start of harvest.
The department and the alliance, if you like, have stepped in to ensure that those roadworks are continued and that local contractors continue to be involved and paid.
Mr Telfer saying the department is working closely with each creditor.
It's really important the department's working one-on-one with each of them to understand where they're all at and what needs they have, both in the short and the medium term.
Dylan Smith, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Still to come tonight, Port Lincoln Police call for public help on an alleged home invasion. And Port Pirie Regional Council calls for more water into the city. See you again soon. Welcome back. Police are seeking public information over an alleged break-in and assault in Port Lincoln last week. Patrols were called to Yardea Street last Tuesday at around 2:30 p.m. after reports a home was broken into. Police allege a man forced entry into the house and punched, assaulted with a metal pole and threatened a 21-year-old man with a homemade firearm. Investigations led to the arrest of a 29-year-old Port Lincoln man. Searches of the suspect's house located a pistol, crossbow and other prohibited weapons. Police are requesting anyone with dashcam footage of the Lincoln Highway between Normandy Place and Point Boston to come forward. Information can also be supplied anonymously through Crime Stoppers. The federal member for Grey has revealed the aged care shortage in Whyalla could take 12 to 18 months to be resolved. There are growing concerns within the community about the prospect of the city's elderly going elsewhere for care.
It's been more than a month since the closure of the Annie Lockwood Aged Care Facility in Whyalla. The member for Grey now admitting it might take a while before a long-term solution is found.
It will be, I think, a very uncomfortable 12, 18 months for those people that have family members who are ageing and in need of care.
The closure adding pressure to the demand for aged care in the Steel City and for other regional cities across the state. The member for Giles calling for more support to ensure residents are able to stay in the city they live in.
Nobody in Whyalla, no aged care residents of Whyalla should have to leave Whyalla to find a nursing home place, because that puts enormous pressure on that person.
In August, Aged Care Services Minister Richard Colbeck announced in Parliament another business was in discussion to conduct operations in Whyalla. Rowan Ramsey keen for those talks to lead to a solution as soon as possible.
The federal department is in discussions, and I believe the state government is as well, with that particular provider, and those discussions, I want to see them concluded as soon as possible.
Ensuring the city's aged care residents are taken care of. Mark Zita, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Meanwhile, the redevelopment of Matthew Flinders Care Services is in full swing, with the concrete being poured today. The aged care service provider expanding its offerings to the Lower Eyre Peninsula.
Investing in the future of the elderly population in Port Lincoln. Matthew Flinders Care Services constructing an extra 15 beds to meet the strong demand.
Matthew Flinders is heavily invested in the aged care community, but this is just another enhancement of that. It's a $6.5 million build.
Local building company Kim Clark Construction's undertaking the redevelopment. Site manager Steve Wright saying the company is honoured to produce the expansion for the organisation.
For something like this, which is a non-for-profit organisation, so we're very happy to have won the contract and employ mostly local contractors.
Matthew Flinders raising the majority of the funds for the redevelopment. The non-for-profit organisation committed to caring for older generations.
Aged care is a challenge, but we certainly have to look after our ageing community, and we're committed to doing that here at Matthew Flinders, and this is just another exciting part of that development going forward.
The care service provider currently employs more than 130 staff. The chairman saying more permanent jobs will be created once the facility is complete.
Employing more as this facility opens, obviously with the extra beds and extra services. So absolutely good for Port Lincoln, more jobs and a lot more beds for our ageing community.
The project is hoped to be completed by the middle of May next year. Dylan Smith, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Port Pirie Regional Council is calling for commitment from its 3 political candidates ahead of the next state election. Water, one of the key issues in need of action, helping to combat lead abatement and greening in the city.
A call for action. Port Pirie Regional Council seeking commitment from its Stewart candidates, aiming to combat 9 issues in the city.
I think all of the candidates were committed when we had our platform night that they can bring those projects forward for us. So we'd like to see them actually, make good on their promises.
Water, just one of them, but one of the most critical.
Now, water is completely important to Port Pirie. Talking about one of the other 2 things that are on that program is lead abatement. And the only way that we can actually keep the lead in air at a minimum is to green this area.
Council seeking funding to conduct a study into the development of the Port Pirie greening strategy, considering targeted water access with mitigation of lead impacts on the community and aiming to engage with SA Water.
We have to start talking to SA Water in regards to how we can do that and what we could do for the immediate that we might get straight out of the pipe, that we can give our householders an opportunity to put an extra garden space in that stops a bit of dirt.
In a statement, Stewart candidate Dan Van Hos-Pelican says he acknowledges all the matters raised in the council's proposal are important for local people and he's working with his ministerial colleagues.
I've always been supportive of getting more water for not only the industrial and residential here, but in Port Pirie and the surrounding areas, but also very importantly for the greening of Port Pirie.
Katrina Musson, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
Stay with us after the break. Community service providers join together for Mental Health Week and a new street projector set to showcase Port Pirie's culture and history. Hello again. To acknowledge Mental Health Week, various Port Augusta service providers have come together to host a community event. Dubbed as a mental health market, each provider setting up a stall full of fun activities and important information.
Making sure no one has to suffer in silence. This pop-up market at Cinema Augusta aiming to encourage community members to come out and have a chat. Stall holders from a variety of services on display, ready to provide wellness information and activities.
Today we're celebrating Mental Health Week. This year's theme is We All Have a Role to Play.
Staff from Flinders and Upper North Health Networks, Centre Care and Headspace taking part in the event.
It's been a multi-agency collaboration. We've got different services here and we've had clients involved in some of the planning and support of this day.
Craft activities, free plants and handmade gifts available for anyone attending, with some items made by clients from the services as a way to reflect and de-stress.
Yeah, try to promote how to develop a self-care plan.
The organisers also treating locals to a free movie and barbecue to encourage community connection.
I suppose letting the community see what services are available when they need them and promoting wellness in the community.
The health services hoping the community takes time for self-care and reaches out when in need. Edward McCarroll, 7 Spencer Gulf News.
You might have noticed something new in the Port Pirie CBD, with the new projection tower now in place. Mayor Leon Stevens says the installation will give the community something to do, while also attracting more visitors to the city.
This new installation set to lighten up Port Pirie.
We looked at this in November of last year of a projection art system that will project onto the barrier wall.
A new projector tower installed last week in City Park near the council chambers. Artwork and photos set to be projected onto this wall, putting on a display for the community. The Port Pirie Mayor says there have been mixed responses from the community, some suggesting money needs to be spent elsewhere.
Yes, we do. I'll agree with you. But at the end of the day, we also need some good things to happen in our life, and this is one of them. We may look at the success of this and then may look at projecting onto the silos as well.
It's hoped the projections will invigorate the city centre, providing opportunities to tell stories of the region's rich history.
And I think it's going to be a lovely little atmosphere, and we're hoping that, people go and have a meal and then might just sit over there and watch the projections, and we're hoping that community comes up with some good ideas that we can put on there.
Mayor Leon Stevens is also hopeful this new attraction will draw more visitors to the city, whilst giving residents a place to enjoy.
We encourage any community members, history clubs, National Trust to bring in all of their stuff, even sporting clubs. We're happy to put as much as we can on there.
Katrina Musson, 7 Spencer Golf News.
Stay with us after the break. We'll have all the scores from sport over the weekend. And we'll have the weather details with Alex Sykes. See you again soon. Welcome back. Players are dusting off their sneakers with the return of summer sports. The warmer weather signalling the start of basketball and softball leagues across the Spencer Gulf. Here's Edward McCarroll with this week's Sports Wrap.
Across the region, basketball is back with Port Lincoln, Whyalla and Port Augusta competitions all starting up again this week. The women's A grade in Whyalla last night saw Demons defeat Titans by 14, while Rapina smashed Wildcats. In the men's A grade, there was plenty of heartbreak with multiple teams missing out on the win by 1 point. Wildcats 2 losing to Rapina in a nail-biter. And the Titans were edged out by the Demons. It wasn't as close in the other game, with Bevan taking and maintaining the lead to defeat Wildcats 1 by 8 points. In Port Lincoln basketball, the men's A-grade competition saw the Breakers defeat Wayback 33-26. And South set the pace for the new season, with a 16-point win over Tasmans. Port Augusta basketball also returning to the stadium last night for the start of the summer season. The under-17s boys were first to hit the court, with Eagles Blue defeating Eagles White 55-28, and Cobras Black barely scraping by to beat Cobras Gold by 1 point. The much-anticipated A-grade competition kicks off tonight, with the men's playing at 8 o'clock and the women's starting on Thursday. Over to Port Pirie softball, the Tigers defeated the Cougars 11-3. Maddie Baldock, a solid contributor in the Tigers' win, by only conceding 4 safe hits in the 5 innings. In the other game, Solly Cats wouldn't give checkmates an inch, beating them by 9. Whyalla 8 Balls preliminary finals have taken place, with excitement now growing after Lions Gold knocked Senators out of the running with a 5-1 win. The Shamrocks also defeated Steel Green in a close 5-3 game. This will see Lions Gold and Shamrocks pitted against each other in the grand final. Shamrocks are keen to steal the win from Lions Gold, who have held the top of the table for most of the season. The grand final will be played at Lions Soccer Club. Lastly, in Port Lincoln squash, iHawk Building secured a win over Hankins Electrical. Lincoln Self Storage defeated PS Electrical, and Wilkins Electrical were too strong for Interact. That's it for sport across the region. If your team or club would like your results featured in our bulletin, please let us know through our Facebook page.
Time now to take a look at what's happening in the weather. Here's Alex Sykes.
Thanks, Ruby, and good evening, everyone. A mainly fine day across most of the region today. There were a few showers in parts. From 3 p.m, Port Augusta and Port Lincoln were both 27 degrees, Whyalla was 26. Looking further out across the region now, Cooper Pedy and Woodner were both 29, Broken Hill was 21, Port Pirie was 25, Whyalla and Kadina were both 26, and our friends in Adelaide reached 23 degrees. Taking a look at the satellite image now, low cloud pushing into far western parts of the coast with a cold southwesterly wind change is not causing rain at the present. Cloud over the Bight approaching the Eyre Peninsula will cause showers to increase later. High jet stream cloud over the southeast is not rain bearing. Moving on to tomorrow's weather outlook now, and we'll start with the Gulf waters. Northeasterly winds 10 to 15 knots, seas 1 to 1.5 metres, and south to southwesterly swell below 1 metre. A chance of showers tomorrow. Port Lincoln and Woodner both set to reach a high of 18 degrees. Cleve to top 17. Whyalla and Port Augusta both to reach 21. And Kadina is set to top 18 degrees. Port Pirie and Broken Hill both 21, and Clare will reach 15 degrees. Taking a look further through the week now, and you'll need the umbrella on Thursday. Windy in Cooper Pedy. Showers across the rest of the region. Temperatures to be in the mid-teens to low 20s. Clearing up on Friday in some areas, but Whyalla, Port Pirie, Kadina, Port Lincoln and Adelaide will all need to keep the brolly out. Partly cloudy for Cooper Pedy, Woodner and Broken Hill. Temperatures set to be in the high teens to low 20s across the region. And looking even better on Saturday, sunny for Cooper Pedy, partly cloudy for Broken Hill, Port Augusta, Woodner, Whyalla and Port Lincoln. Cloudy everywhere else. So look, the first week of school isn't looking like the best weather, but at least the conditions are looking to clear in time for the weekend. That's all the weather from me for tonight. Back to you, Ruby.
Lovely, thanks for that, Alex. And that's the local news this Tuesday evening. Thanks for joining us. I'll have updates later. Until then, enjoy your evening. Good night.